Welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek. Hope everyone had a nice week. Well, I'm ready with my talking points. After I got out of work today, my husband and I went to El Mercadito, which is actually not too far from my new school. So that's a big Mexican shopping plaza with restaurants. And it was nice to go there and hang out, do some shopping. Unfortunately, a lot of the shops were shut down inside of it. And even there's a top floor where they have mariachis. And I thought, excuse me, oh, it would be nice, even though it's early, because we went like right after school, so around 4 o'clock, to see if some mariachis were playing, because they kind of walked through the restaurant and there were a couple stages. That whole floor was shut down, which that was pretty sad. I don't know if that's ever going to be, opened up again or not, but it's a really fun place to go once in a while. Okay, so I've got my talking points, and the first thing I want to talk about is Angela Lansbury. So you probably know that she died, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and that's obviously when anyone dies, it's sad, but she's famous, actress, singer. She did so much. She had so many movies, TV shows, Broadway star. My favorite thing that she did was Sweeney Todd by Stephen Sondheim, right? So she did the Broadway version of it. Many people know the movie version from Tim Burton. And Helena Bonham Carter did the Angela Lansbury role. Yeah, such a great show. If you've never heard it, I really suggest that you listen to Try a Little Priest. It's too good, at least. How can you not like it? It's about cannibalism, right? That's all you need. So I've been listening to a recording this week by him, His Infernal Majesty, and that's something that Guz69 recommended for me, because we have a challenge going on. If you're interested, I'm either going to post that challenge video later tonight or tomorrow morning, so check that out. So while I've been listening to that, and since it's getting closer to Halloween, I've been listening to, going to go off screen for a second, reach over here. I just had to pull this out and start listening to it. If you've never heard this, this is phenomenal. This is like, well, I already said phenomenal, and I'm about to say so good. So which is it? Phenomenal or so good? Wow. I couldn't pass up buying the album a few years ago because I just loved this so much. If you've never heard it, it starts off side one. It slams you. First of all, there's all these like little interludes in between the songs where they play like horror movie sounds and or even dialogue. It's so good. And then you go right into Super Beast. This song rocks. People talk about like killer first tracks on albums. This song, it's a rocker. It's so good. I'm not supposed to swear because I'm a teacher, in case my students. But hey, this is good. And then it just keeps going. You got Super Beast, you got Dragula, you got Living Dead Girl, you've got Perversion 99, which I know it's a good song. I can't remember how it goes. And then you got Demonoid Phenomenon. The whole side one, I'm telling you, it starts and it doesn't let up. You have to hear it. But if nothing else, please listen to Super Beast. That song just is such a killer opener. It just rocks. So anyways, Rob Zombie, Hellbilly Deluxe. It's great. It's got such great artwork. Even there's a little poster insert. Not a poster. It's just like an insert here. And even the label on the record is cool. Great album by Rob Zombie. And the thing about it is, it says satanophonic, and it says, it's got like symbolism. It's tongue-in-cheek, right? So, to me, it's just over-the-top kind of Halloween horror type fun. So, I mean, if I thought for 1 second, like, hey, this guy was like really worshiping Satan, I wouldn't listen to it. I hope you're not offended, any satanic worshipers who are watching my my feed. So sorry, but no, I don't. I'm not interested in anybody who worships Satan. Oops, I expressed a belief. All right. So I'm going to talk about the movies I watched this week. So I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go over, right? And most of them are Mexican, but some of them are Brazilian. And those were also recommended by Guz69. So when I get to those, I'll talk to you about it. So the first one, my husband really wanted to watch because we've been on a Mexican movie kick. And so he wanted to watch a comedy that was scary. Now, I'm not into comedy horror. To me, it's not interesting. But he wanted to watch it, so I was like, okay, we'll watch it. So it's this movie. It's called El Miedo No Anda en Burro. So there's the poster for it. Oops. The poster went away. Anyways, that's the main character in it. And there we go. Wait, things just keep popping around. I don't know how to use my iPad very well, I guess. Let me go back to that. Okay, here we go. So there's the movie poster. It just keeps popping away. Okay, don't pop away now. There's the movie poster. Now, in this day and age, I guess this movie would be considered racist. And it probably is. It probably is. So it's about a native Mexican woman who is the housekeeper, and the rich, Mexican family, she ends up, the housekeeper, my thing keeps rocking, the housekeeper ends up inheriting everything from the owner, and all she has to do is take care of the dog, and the relatives of the owner, they want her out of the picture, so they're trying to scare her to death. They take her to this like haunted house. So if you can see in the poster, like there's all these like creepy things that show up in the house, and they're trying to scare her. I mean, it's a typical comedy. It was good, and I actually thought parts of it were funny. But like I say, now I think it would be considered racist. Sorry, everybody, I watched a racist movie. My husband made me do it. All right. The next one we watched was called, this is also one of his favorites, Más Negro que la Noche. And this one in English is called Darker Than Night. And this one is from 1975. Sorry, the previous movie that I talked about was from 1976. So here's the movie poster for it. Again, this one, I don't know, like I see a theme here. Like owners dying, and then the inheritors have to take care of the animals. So anyways, there's an older lady who has a cat named Becker, and the woman dies, and she leaves her niece, their only relative, the house and everything. And the niece brings 3 of her friends to live in the house, and there's a housekeeper, older housekeeper, and all they have to do is take care of the cat, and they messed that up. But anyways, it's a horror movie, basically a haunted house ghost type horror movie, and it was a lot of fun, right? Obviously they don't do a good job in taking care of the cat, and so the ghost of the older lady, she gets mad and she gets her revenge. So here's the movie poster for it. It was fun. It's good 70s horror movie. It kind of reminds me of I've only seen a few of the Hammer horror movies, which I need to watch more, but it kind of reminded me of that. And then there was a remake of this movie from 2014, and we went ahead and watched that one too. It was updated and it was actually really good. I recognized one of the actresses from Sense8. She was in the remake of it, so it was a really nice remake. You can all of these movies that I'm talking about are on YouTube, and I think one of them was on Tubi, right? But they're all free. You could watch them. And then we come to Guz69. So he's a Brazilian gentleman. And I was talking about horror movies last week, and he recommended the Coffin Joe movies. And so I was like, well, of course, I'll go ahead and watch them. And, I'm watching horror movies anyway. So Coffin Joe is really famous in Brazil. And the actor who made the first movie in 1964, he made the first feature-length Brazilian horror movie in 1964, and it's called At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. So let me show you that. Here's the picture for it. I mean the movie poster for it. At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. Now I'm going to tell you that this movie is kind of complicated. The main character is a real ass. And in the first movie, he's got a philosophy, and he's going to live by that philosophy. And he goes around terrorizing the town, the small town that he lives in. And he terrorizes anyone in it. And when he gets mad, like veins start popping in his eyes, and he just goes on the attack. It's like he has a superpower when he gets mad. He gets like super mad. And everybody's afraid of him. And the most hysterical thing is he walks into this bar. He keeps going there. All the townspeople still go to the bar, even though they get harassed every time he walks in. He goes to this bar, and he just starts insulting people, stabbing people, hitting people. And as he walks out, he's wearing this cape, and he wears this hat. He just makes a joke, and he starts laughing, and like to everyone's face, like this gigantic laugh. And then he walks out. Like everywhere he goes, he just laughs, this deep laugh at everybody. He's got these really long nails. They're real. And his philosophy is really, really interesting. So I'm just going to kind of run through it because I just thought, like, this is like really developed. So this guy doesn't believe in religion or superstitions. And anybody who believes in those things, he is going to tear you down. He's going to ridicule you. He might even kill you. Right? So he hates religion. He hates superstition. And he thinks the most important thing is for you to be able to have your, I hate saying have your seed. Basically, your child makes you immortal. Having children is the sole purpose for living. Once you have a child, you can die because you've already moved your bloodline. So it's all about blood and having children. And you have to protect children. And when they're adults, it's okay. You can get rid of them because they're all idiots because they believe in religion and superstition. But all children must be protected at all costs. It's a wild philosophy, and it's kind of interesting. And so he lives his life for that philosophy. And the thing about it is, like, he comes up against superstition and religion, like real examples of them through dreams and through like encounters, and he still refuses to believe. Like, he won't give up that belief that they're not real, and he just, no matter what happens, he fights it and fights it. So for example, I shouldn't tell the end, right? But that's a horror movie. The interesting about the end, it's going to lead into the second movie. You know what? I just won't say it. You should watch it. They're actually really, really interesting movies, but they are definitely being movies made on a budget, right? So you're going to have to go into that knowing that. And I just thought they were really, really interesting movies. So now I'm going to move on to the second one. So at the beginning of the second one, the second movie actually goes in a slightly different direction. So the first movie, he's terrorizing the town, and then he's basically gathering up women, and if if the woman turns out to not be for him, not to be the right vessel for his seed, then he's got to kill her and move on to the next one. So he's basically doing that in the first movie. Now in the second movie, he's absolved of all his crimes. He starts, in this one he doesn't really terrorize the town. In this one, he gathers all these women together and he starts like torturing them to find which one is the strongest and the most courageous. And then when he finds the one when he finds the one that's the most courageous, the one that won't scream when he's torturing them, he throws all the other ones into a pit. And this scene is so amazing. He brings the one woman onto his bed and he starts making love to her, and he opens up these panels in the floor, and the women that he had already captured who weren't worthy, they're down in this pit, and he's like throwing snakes on them, and the snakes are wrapping around and biting them, and they're screaming and howling. And the woman that he's chosen, she's not allowed to like react to this because she has to be strong. It's so it's so weird, but I'm telling you, they're such interesting movies. Like, I know my description is probably not good, but anyways, both movies are black and white, and there's a sequence in the second movie that's in color, and he goes to hell, and it is the exact description of a Christian hell. And it's, for a B movie, he really makes hell come to life. Like, there are people stuck in the walls, body parts coming out, and I'm talking all kinds of body parts. They're like hanging out of the walls, and these devils are walking around stabbing them, and they're screaming, and the devils just keep going up to each one. Like, there'll be like a head sticking out of the floor, and the devil will step on it. And it is just crazy, and it's so well done. And even after having that experience, he doesn't believe in religion, and he scoffs at it. So the second movie was called This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, and it was made 3 years later in 1967. So let me show you the picture for that one. This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. Now, there is a third movie in the trilogy that I didn't get to watch yet, but that one wasn't made for like 20 or 30 years later. Right, so I think it was in like 2004, 2008. I'm gonna see if it's available, and if so, you'll hear about that one next week. Well, anyways, both these movies, they've got, like murder and torture and sadistic elements. But this character is crazy, and you really, if you're into B movies or horror movies, you really have to watch these. So Guz69, thank you so much for alerting me to these movies. They are crazy fun. Okay, the last movie that I'm going to talk about is a movie from 1934 called El Fantasma del Convento. So the Ghost of the Convent, pretty much, from 1934. So I really, really like older movies. And this is about a group of three people who have some weird relations. That's important in the movie. Their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and then they're walking through the woods, and this guy with a dog finds them and brings them to this convent, and they spend the night. And as they're in the convent, there's these things start popping up about heaven and hell, and the convent, actually, that's not the right word. It's not a convent. What do you call where monks have to be silent? There's another word for it. Anyways, I'll just call it convent for now, because convents are usually where nuns are, but these are only male monks. Male monks. These are only monks, and they have a vow of silence, But anyways, these three people spend the night, but they're going through all these weird adventures in the Abbey. No, Murray is not an asset to the Abbey. It's not that. Anyways, wherever male monks live, convent. I don't think it's called a convent. So, I really enjoyed it. I like older horror movies, and this one was actually put out by one of these movie companies that put out foreign movies. I forget the name of it. Oh, it's not Criterion, but it's a similar one. It's one of these boutique movie labels, and they put this one out. And so, and it comes with all these extras and bonuses. And so I figured, let me watch it and see if I liked it, and before I hunt down to look for the bonus features. And it's a really good movie, especially if you like older movies. We finished She-Hulk this week, so we watched the last couple of episodes, and I don't know why so many people are putting it down. I thought it was really good. So I know the CGI is a bit wonky. It's hard to look at, but the story is pretty interesting. And so for me, like, the comic was really interesting because She-Hulk would always break the fourth wall and talk right to the reader. And the She-Hulk in this series not only does that, but in the last episode they take it a step further, and I thought it was well done. Also, this is a spoiler. I loved seeing Daredevil in the last two episodes. I mean, that show, when it was on Netflix when it first came out, that show was amazing. I loved it. Okay, I made a boo-boo. So I was also going to say, because one of my subscribers asked me if I was going to watch Werewolf by Night. And I was like, oh, it's already out? Definitely I'm watching it. So I went ahead and watched it. I didn't know if it was a movie, a show, a series. It ended up being, I think, a 1-hour show, like a kind of special. And one of the reasons why I wanted to see it after seeing the trailer, and also I'm a big fan, but one of the reasons why it was filmed in the style of Universal monster movies. And it is. It's I think it's really well done. It's really good. But there was a special guest, and I was going to show the comics. I have the omnibus of the special guest. I also have the Werewolf by Night, and I have the special guest. And I was going to show the special guest, and it was going to be a spoiler, but I won't now because I forgot to get it. But I'm a huge fan of the guest that was in the show, and I'm not really crazy with the way they portrayed him, but I did like his power. So here's a little clue: if you know Marvel, whatever knows fear burns at the touch of. If you know Marvel Comics, then you know who I'm talking about. And that was a spoiler, sorry. But anyways, I recommend it. It's only an hour, and I really enjoyed it. It's really good for Halloween. At this point, I'm at 23. I'm going to go ahead and move on to 3 books that I got through this week. So, as I said last time, I am listening to, or trying to read, but mostly listening to, the Booker Prize long list, even though the short list is already out. So, I told you last week about Trust by Hernan Diaz, but I finished it. And this was a book that had 4 different parts, and I ended up really, really liking this book. I really liked this book, and the reason I liked it is it played with point of view, it played with history, and when you get to the final section, it changes everything that you thought about the previous sections. And so that, for me, was really, really interesting. So I don't think this book made it to the short list. And I'm kind of sad about that because I really, really think that this book is well written. I highly recommend it. Trust by Hernan Diaz. I gave a description of it in my last week, so I'm not going to describe it here. Another book that I read this week, I had to go fast with this book because I only had it for a week, and then I had to return it. because it's something that the library is doing now when you're doing audiobooks. So this is the cover of the book, Night Crawling, by Layla Motley. So this is a story about a young girl who feels she has no other way to support herself and a young boy who lives across the hall. Okay, so she feels responsible for that young boy who lives across the hall. So she finds that the only way she can support them is to go into prostitution. And so that's what the title refers to, night crawling. She's, crawling around, not crawling around, but, prowling around at night looking for customers. But then the police start to get involved. She becomes involved in police corruption. So anyways, this is a first-person narrative from the girl's point of view, and so you understand her decisions, and you get to see what she's going through. And it takes place in Oakland, California. It also, at the very end of the book, the writer had a post note or after note about how she had heard about this kind of story, that it happened in the news, and she was just wondering about what happened to the girls who were involved, because it was like a police corruption ring where the police were using prostitutes at parties, and how they would abuse them, and they would be powerless, and they would treat them horribly, and oftentimes not even pay them. And so she said she wondered what actually happened to the women who were involved with that, and that's one of the reasons why she wanted to write this book. And so this is from the point of view of a girl in that situation. Obviously it's fiction, so it's not from one of the real points of view. So anyway, so that was Night Crawling, which is also on the long list. I'm not sure if it's on the short list either. I should be more informed. Sorry. I did show the short list last week. And the final one that I have to talk about is this book, Happening, by Annie Ernaux. Now you might say, how did you get through 3 books in 1 week? So first of all, I was almost finished with Trust, and then I got through that book. And then this one is super short. It was only 2 hours. So for me, I do double speed, so that was less than an hour, because I do 2.10 or 2.15. Now, the reason I read this book is one of my good friend is, I think, an hour or two time. What do you call that? The hours are ahead. Time zone. She's in like a different time zone. And she wrote me when I woke up hey, did you hear that Annie Ernaux had won the Nobel Prize for Literature? And I was like, no. And like, we both had never heard of her. And so I immediately went on my library audiobook website, and I was able to get this. This was the only book that they had in English, the only one, and it was super short. And so she won the Nobel Prize. So her writing is sparse. So and in this book, she was writing about from her own experience of when she was young in France. Getting an abortion was illegal, but she wanted an abortion no matter what, and she did. And so she kept a journal at that time, notes, and she went back to her notes, and then later she tried to recreate the feelings that she had in the experience. And like I said, there's not a lot of detail, not a lot of feeling. She just writes what happens for the most part. And super short book. If you're interested in knowing why she won the Nobel Prize, this would be a good one to read since it's so short. But I don't think many are available in English. This is normally what happens with the Nobel Prize, and then later they'll have some translations, and those writers will be more available. Wow, it's 29 minutes and 50 seconds, so I actually did this under 30 minutes. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. I am going to try to make another video tonight. Like I said, it's a challenge that I have with Guz69. So you might see another video from me later tonight or tomorrow. But again, if you stayed with me this whole Friday night chat, thank you so much. Go ahead and leave some comments. I always love to, hear or read about what you think was interesting or even what was not. And I'll see you next week.